Stop fearing your emotions and stop controlling your emotions. Stop trying to think your way out of feeling because so much information out there is telling you that it's mind over heart, that you need to be rational, that you need to be logical, and that's how you win and that's how you succeed, that emotions are bad, that you need to stop feeling, that you can't be too emotional because that's when you're going to lose, that's when you're going to fail. Stop. Why? Because emotions need to be felt. Emotions are there for a reason. And the more we suppress them, the sicker we become. Why is there a pandemic of sickness out there, of physical ailments, of mental health, of emotions that are not able to be released? That is what contributes to the population not being able to connect to one another, to build relationships, to know what your true self is, and to succeed on your own terms. We are being conditioned to believe that it's mind over heart, that you need to think your way out of feeling. And I'm here to set the record straight because this I cannot deal with anymore. I'm passionate about this because I've lived it. I've seen it. I've seen how the generations are changing, how kids are unable to express how they feel. And I've definitely lived it for myself. And I've gone through and come out on the other side of transformation where I see the power in emotion. I see how I can use my emotions to benefit my well being and not the other way around. So, if you're someone who fears their emotions, if you've been taught to suppress your emotions, it's not your fault because that's the information that's out there. No one teaches us how to safely express or how to feel our emotions. Well, I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to teach you how to embrace your emotions, how to lean into the discomfort, how to feel all the feels, and how to transform them into information that works to your benefit. So we're done with controlling our feelings. We're done with those motivational quotes. It's like you only win when your mind is stronger than your emotions. Fuck that. And yes, I said it because we're getting passionate today. I can't deal with these people coming in and saying that emotions are bad. Stop. We need to embrace emotions and we need to learn how to channel them in a positive way. Is it that we're just not wanting to take the time to learn? Is it that there's no one there to teach you? Because I'm here, I'm going to do it. I'll teach you all. I've lived it and I have tools. Let's work through our emotions together and let me show you how powerful that can be. All right. I needed to take a breath because that got heated. And if you're still listening and you're with me, thank you for being here because we need to come together for this cause. We need to teach our children that it's okay to feel emotions, that suppressing only leads to bigger issues. Suppressing your emotions leads to anger, more fear, more disgust, more frustration. Like it just does the opposite of what you think. And not only that, it leads to gut issues, it leads to physical discomfort, it starts to affect your organs. Even your muscles, your body just doesn't feel right anymore. And it even can manifest into things that you then need to go to the hospital to get resolved, as in the big C. Yeah, I said it because emotions that are suppressed, they build, they stay stagnant. And if energy is not able to move through your body, your cells are not able to get the nourishment that they need. So maybe that there's a cell that's going to reproduce in a way that we don't want it to reproduce and then cause problems down the road. So emotions are at the core of our health. And why is this not taught in school? Why is this not general information? Why is there such a disconnect when it comes to emotions? Why are people out there preaching that you need to think your way out of emotions, that you have to be stronger in your mind to overcome your emotions? You don't need to overcome your emotions. You don't need to control your emotions. You need to feel your emotions. I'll say that again. The only thing you need to do is feel your emotions. And so if you're resisting feeling your emotions, that's what's going to lead to problems. You're not going to be able to convince yourself with your intelligent mind that you don't want to feel this because it's going to stay in there and it's going to be felt in a different way and it's going to manifest into physical discomfort or something worse. So the only thing you need to do is honor that feeling that's coming up, that emotion that's coming through your body. It's there to give you information. Why have we judged it as bad? Obviously, we're talking about negative emotions, right? So emotions that don't feel so good. Why are we afraid to let those be felt? Well, number one, because they don't feel good. So I get it. You want to not feel bad. But what if I told you there's a healthy way to feel it? Actually, even stronger than that, what if I told you that your emotions are only there to be felt for 90 seconds? So can you allow yourself maximum a minute and a half to feel into the ickiness? Because after that, it's just going to release. But no, we don't want to feel it at all. So what do? We push it down. We suppress it. But guess what? Your body can only handle so much. So the more you push down, the more you suppress, the more you bottle your emotions, you start to suffocate. You start to get stuck of stagnant energy that cannot circulate through your body because emotions, all they are, energy in motion, emotion. They need to move. They come and go like a wave. So allow it to wash over you and then be released. But no, we bring it up to our head, we overthink it, we get stuck. We're so afraid of feeling it, and we try to think our way out of it that we actually do the opposite and we suppress the emotion and get it stuck so that it builds, and then it's even worse over time. Because what happens with anything that you suppress, at one point you're going to run out of space, you're going to run out of room, and it's going to overflow. And it's going to erupt at the worst possible time. Think of a volcano. You're bubbling on the inside. You are a volcano. You're bubbling on the inside of all these emotions that want to be released, but you're not allowing to release. So they're kind of like just stirred up inside you and they want to escape, but you're not letting it. You're kind of chokehold on them. You're not letting them go. And then the minute you give yourself just a little permission to let a little bit out, for example, you allow yourself just a moment to express how you feel, or somebody says something that you can't hold back and you respond to them. Well, that little bit that you've opened up to let those emotions out, the entire volcano is going to erupt because there's a space, there's an opening. So if you've ever been in a position where you totally regret overreacting when someone said something that really wasn't that important, but it hit you in a way that made you just erupt with emotion, that's what happened. It's not that the person said something that was deserving of that amount of information that you just released on them. It's that a little door opened. There was a little space that was available for a little bit of emotion to come out. But because it was so backed up and because the volcano was bubbling, it just pushed out all of the emotions that were stuck. And that happens so much. That's what road rage is. When you think of it, road rage, the person cut you off, or the person didn't use their blinker when they wanted to change lanes. Why are you yelling at them like they just kicked a dog or did something horrible, right? Like, why are you yelling at them in a way that is really not equivalent to the action that they've done? It's because you've opened up that little bit inside you to release a little emotion, but again, the flood waves have opened, the gates have opened, and all of it's coming out. So, how do we avoid this? Well, we have to stop bottling, we have to stop suppressing. And just to give you some scientific backed facts, since your emotions are energy and we're all made of energy, there's always energy that's moving through your body. And what happens when we suppress our emotions and we block them and we push them down is that the energy gets stuck, it gets stagnant. And that stagnant energy is what starts to contribute to the little aches and pains that you're feeling. So in your lower back, in your hips, for women, we hold a lot of emotion in our hips because it's our sacral region, it's our chakra, our sacral chakra. So a lot of emotion and baggage gets stored there. And if it's not released, like for me, for the longest time, I had the tightest hips. And being a dancer too, it's not expected, but I realized that when I started going to yoga class and I would do these poses that I was like, what is this? I can't even go into this position. Like pigeon pose is like a gentle pose, let's be honest. But I wasn't able to get to that pose because my hips were so tight. And I've heard stories of women who start to use yoga as emotional release. And when they get into those hip opening exercises, they start crying. They actually start to release all of that emotion that they haven't been given permission or haven't given themselves permission to let out. And shout out to my yoga teacher, Irina, when I used to go to her classes regularly years ago. And she would always ask, "What do you want to work on today, Sab?" I'm like, "Hips, hip opening, please, hip opening, please." And she would always come prepared for me to the point where when she would ask me, she's like, "Okay, Sab, I know you want to work on hips, but anything else today?" Like for me, I was like, I need to open my hips. I need to release those emotions. And I only realized after that that was the connection because I'm someone who did suppress her emotions, who had trouble releasing because I was never taught. And not only was I never taught, like many of us, and it's not our fault because it's not something that we talk about, I was also praised for being quiet. And I was punished for expressing my feelings in a way like crying. As a kid, we don't know. We cry for everything because we don't know how to express our emotions. We don't know how to use our words. So, throwing a tantrum, yes, maybe it's frustrating when you're in the middle of a grocery store and your kid's throwing a tantrum, but that is their way of telling you that something is wrong. That's their way of expressing their emotions. So, how can we honor them and maybe just encourage them to feel their emotions in a way, to use their words to express how they feel. So when they grow up, they know that it's okay to release your emotions. It's not okay to maybe throw a tantrum in the middle of a grocery store, but if I put it in perspective, the tantrum is there because something needs to come out. They're upset about something and they don't know how else to voice, to express. So it comes out in that way, in the most raw, natural way that it can. But by teaching them, by taking the time to let them know, number one, how do you put this into words, right? If I back up to myself, I never threw a tantrum, but I would get upset. I was a kid. And even if I did throw a tantrum, my parents, especially my father, did not allow that. He would shut me down then and there. So guess what? I learned that it's not safe to express how I feel. I know that that wasn't his intention. I know that as a parent out there, like the last thing you want is your child to throw a tantrum. Of course, it's very frustrating, especially if you're in public. So maybe your first instinct and reaction is to shut it down real quick. And I get it. I totally get it. But just know that that will then show your child that it's not safe to express emotion. They will not then feel trust within themselves to express when something arises because they're going to get shut down. So growing up, even when I did learn to use my words, I was always afraid that whenever I did express how I felt, I would be shut down. And that's how generations of emotional suppression is built. And that's why we've gotten to this point where people my age, people in our 30s, 40s, even 50s, we don't know how to just be in our emotions. We're afraid, we avoid. And it's getting worse because obviously in this generation, we're the parents. So if we don't know how to safely express our emotions and how to honor them, how can we teach that to our kids? And so the kids grew up with that same pattern. We need to stop that pattern. We need to break that cycle. And that's what I'm here to do for you today. Maybe not just today, but through my platform, through this podcast, through all of my teachings, all of my working with clients, I want to help you embrace emotion. I want to help you change your relationship when it comes to your emotions and honor whatever comes through. Emotions are there because they want to give you information. So if we can remove the stigma around emotions being too much or bad or negative or this or that, and just look at it as what are my emotions trying to tell me? Because that's the greatest indicator. They're there to be felt because they're there to provide information. Something happens in your life and it's unfair. You're going to feel angry. That's what anger means. Something happens that you're super disappointed and you feel sad. That emotion comes up to give you that signal that something needs to be done, something needs to change. And the first step really to honoring your emotions and understanding is to allow yourself to feel them. And I'm going to go back to the scientific evidence of emotions are only there to be felt for 90 seconds. So if we can reframe and just think of how can I lean into this uncomfortable feeling for 90 seconds, knowing that once I do, its job is done and it will release. Can we just hold on to that? If there's one thing you take away from the episode, from this podcast today, emotions are only there to be felt for 90 seconds. So allow yourself to feel it to the extent that it needs to be felt for the 90 seconds, knowing that you will then release yourself of it. So feel it now so you don't need to feel it later when it's snowballed into something that's so much bigger and more dramatic. Feel it now when it comes up, and that's a healthy way to deal with it so you can rid it of your body and you don't have to carry this emotional baggage with you for the next 50 years. Emotions are so important to our well-being. They are the foundation of how we react, of how we move in the world, and now they're contributing to our overall well being because if they're not felt and if they're suppressed and they're stuck, they're going to manifest into physical ailments, into more serious illnesses. And we're not really looking at the root of this problem. Like if someone has a physical disease, you're going to try to give them medication, you're going to try to change their nutrition. Already nutrition is better. Like, yes, if they need medication, go for it. But yes, look at their lifestyle, look at their what they're eating. Are they moving? So physically, you're looking at what are they doing? How are they moving their body? What is their lifestyle like? Stress, so on and so forth. We also need to look at emotions. Are they releasing their emotions? Chances are no, because they've never been taught, and that's okay. That's what we're here to change today. So suppressing emotions is the most dangerous thing you can do. And teaching your children that it's not safe or it's not right or they're going to be punished for expressing their emotions is getting back into that pattern and that cycle for the next generation. The first thing I did when I started to realize that I was someone who was taught that vulnerability was weakness, that in order to be in a position of power, I had to be controlling my emotions. I couldn't show my emotions. I couldn't let on what I actually felt. Let me tell you a story. I've told this story before, but maybe in this context, it'll be a bit different. So, as you all know, I used to work in the advertising industry, which is very high stress. A lot of moving pieces, a lot of high maintenance clients, a lot of disrespectful clients, unfortunately. And I used to get spoken to in very disrespectful ways because I was the agency and they were paying me, so they felt like they could talk to me any way they wanted to. And I swallowed all of those emotions. I was on set one day. We were in New York. We were doing a big photo shoot for a big brand. And I'm laughing as I'm thinking about it. I'm happy I could laugh about it now because at the time, the person who was in charge of that brand was known to be very disrespectful, very close-minded. It was his way or the highway, right? Like he had all the power, he was paying the money, so he got to call the shots. But I was the advertising director in charge of the agency, in charge of making sure that his budget was being spent wisely, that he wasn't wasting money, and that things were running smoothly. So when he asked for a significant change in the schedule that would cost him an extra day on set, I brought this to his attention just to say, like, just letting you know, if you'd like to go in this direction, these are the consequences, just so you have all the information. And I was met with the most narcissistic, macho response ever. This is my shoot and my money, and you're not going to tell me what to do. I'm paraphrasing, but it was definitely along those lines. I was in shock. This is in front of my entire team, in front of my boss as well. So I'm happy he was there to witness it. I had nothing to say. I basically shut down. I was just like, how could you speak to me that way? I think I just like nodded my head and I walked out. But that level of disrespect, because it's not like I called him out or I yelled at him and then he yelled back. Like I was trying to keep things on track and bringing something to his attention. So to be met with this kind of anger and to be spoken to like, you're nothing, little girl. Who are you? I'm the one paying you, so you listen to me. Like that kind of approach, like that doesn't fly with me. But I was so closed up at that time and so guarded that I swallowed those emotions and I walked out. And later that night, when I was with one of my coworkers, like after the shoot, back at the hotel room, we were just kind of winding down. I started crying. I started crying because I was so frustrated. And it was for sure an accumulation of like the stress of getting to that point because I mean, we don't just arrive on set and everything's there. Like it's months and months and months of preparation, of planning and everything and making sure things go smoothly. And then you get to that point and you need to make sure everyone is doing what they need to do on set and everything's running smoothly. And then he says what he says, and it was totally disrespectful, totally undermining, totally belittling. Um, yeah, I started crying because that was the only way I knew how to let it out. And my coworker looked at me and said, I'm sorry you're crying, but it's a relief to know that you also feel these feelings. Because up until now, she was like, up until now, I didn't think that this affected you. I thought that you were like super robotic in this job. And I thought, what's wrong with me that I go home crying at night, but Sabrina's able to put up with all this shit. And I was like, wow. Like, no, I just cry on my own time. I don't cry in public, but I cry on my own time, but trust that this affects me. And so the moral of the story is that I was leading in a position thinking that I couldn't show vulnerability because it would be a weakness. Whereas vulnerability became my biggest strength because it allowed me to connect with my coworker, for her to see that it was okay to feel these emotions, that someone else was feeling what she was feeling. So it actually brought us closer and it bonded us. And she was able to trust me more. She was able to respect me more because she saw that I was human and that there was nothing wrong with her, that she wasn't able to, to let go of these feelings because I was going through it too. So when that happened, I started to change my way of managing, of leading. But unfortunately, I had been bottling my emotions for so long that they were all so stuck, I didn't know where to start. And it was going to be a lot of work to just undo all of the conditioning that I had learned over the years. In my personal story, this bottling of emotions and suppressing of emotions led to a burnout. I am 100% certain that that is why I experienced burnout because I was not able to feel my feelings and I was resisting the truth that this job was no longer for me. And resisting that meant not feeling what I actually felt. It meant having my mind be stronger than my emotions and convincing myself that everything was okay, that I just needed a vacation. That's what it looks like when your mind is stronger than your emotions. You don't allow yourself to feel, and then you end up in a position like I was in of burnout because, like it or not, it's going to catch up with you. Those emotions will either erupt in the worst way or they will manifest and they will drain you. They will drain your energy. I was emotionally exhausted, not only physically because we were running around a lot, mentally because it was a lot of work, but like emotionally drained. Have you ever felt emotionally drained where it's just like everything is heavy? Everything is difficult, everything's a challenge, and it's like, you just feel like a big weight on your shoulders. Chances are there's emotion in there in your body that needs to be released. And so I'm grateful that I had the Heart Rise meditation practice, which is a form of meditation that allows you to heal by releasing your emotions. That is the first piece of healing work that I did after my burnout, when I left my job and when I started to get back on my feet again. I knew that there was healing that was needed. I knew I needed to change my entire way of being because I could not re-enter the work field and look for a new career if I was still in that same place of suppressing my emotions, of not letting myself feel what I needed to feel, and really bypassing those signals that were telling me at least 2 years prior to my burnout that I was on the wrong path. So when you're not allowing yourself to feel, you're missing this important information that's coming up that's there to tell you that, like, hey, maybe this isn't right anymore. Hey, maybe we need to think of another direction. Maybe you've outgrown this part of your life, and that's okay. Everything's okay. But what we do, we make it mean something about us. We make it mean that we're a failure, that we're weak, that we're incapable, that we're not worthy. And we don't want to face that, because then it's an identity issue, because then we get down on ourselves. But I'm here to demystify that and tell you that emotions are just information. And if they're coming up, there's a reason for them. They need to be felt. And the earlier you feel them and you receive that information, the easier it will be to move through and change directions. We're all afraid of change because it gets us out of our comfort zone. It gets us from the familiar, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it doesn't really serve us anymore, even if we're stressed, at least it's familiar. It's a feeling that we know. Getting out of it means experiencing something new, the uncertainty, which is stressful for a lot of us who like to be in control. So, what if I told you that the quicker you get those signals and that information that your body is trying to tell you through emotions as well, the easier it will be to transition from the familiar and the known to the unknown and the uncertain, and to do that in a way that feels good for you. So, the exact thing that we fear, we're able to move through it with a lot more grace, with a lot more peace and calm, because we're in touch with who we are and what we want. And it's not going to take as long to filter through all those emotions and to let all that go. You're going to be able to move through it in a way that works, that serves you, that gets you to the other side in less time, less effort, and so that you can maybe reduce the amount of time that you're stuck feeling burnt out, like me, 2 years. Yeah. And you can get to the new chapter of your life where you can actually experience that freedom, experience whatever it is that you want that is different from what you're currently living. But all that needs to happen with emotional work. So this meditation that I discovered that I'm actually certified to lead, if you're interested, it's a 4-step meditation where I guide you through the process of becoming aware of those emotions, because awareness is always key in the first step of any kind of process of transformation. You become aware of those emotions, you honor them, you feel them, and you release them. So, a saying that we had during that certification process, which is so true, and I still use it today: to heal through is to feel through. The feeling is the healing. You need to feel in order to heal. That's such a big part. And that's exactly what's missing from a lot of inner work. Even in the coaching space, everyone's focused on mindset, and mindset is amazing. But like I said in the very beginning of the episode, and I've said a few times, you can't think your way out of feeling. You cannot avoid your feelings by thinking, by rationalizing, by analyzing. It gets you in even more trouble. So when you're ready to make that shift for yourself, when you're ready to start feeling through your emotions to really truly heal, then that work begins, and we can do that together. I can take you through the emotional resilience piece. I can link it to mindset because they work together. But first and foremost, I will honor you and your feelings. I will encourage you to feel through everything, because I do not believe your head is stronger than your heart. I believe that all of your body works together, and your heart is one of the strongest assets you have. It's so powerful. It actually has enough electromagnetic energy to light up a small city. And that's scientifically backed evidence. Your heart's energy extends 6 feet around you. And so, why do you think social distancing was put in place? Why do you think all of these isolation techniques were put in place? To control us, to keep us in a position of powerlessness. And I'm here to give you your power back. I'm here to encourage you to take your power back. I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to encourage you to take it. It's already within you. You just have to go and access it. So, emotions are one of the most important parts of your human experience. They're not bad. They're there to give us information. So, how can we start to shift? Maybe that's the one mindset piece that could be connected to emotions. How do you view your emotions? How do you perceive your emotions? So, if I can encourage you to see your emotions as information, they're only meant to be felt for 90 seconds and then they're released. How could you allow yourself, give yourself permission, have the courage to feel what needs to be felt, gather that information, and move on? We don't suppress, we don't control, we don't try to think our way out of feeling. We allow ourselves to be, to just feel. And when you do that, trust me, because I'm living proof, you will feel more at peace. You will feel more relaxed. You will feel more authentic and connected to yourself. And then see the potential and the path that you want to move forward on in your life. It will also strengthen the relationships around you. It will just allow you to be more comfortable in your body and with yourself and with your feels. So the confidence is there too. All of these benefits come from simply allowing yourself to feel, to stop suppressing. So I'm going to be shouting this from the rooftops. We need to stop controlling our feelings, stop suppressing, stop being scared of feeling, and allow ourselves to lean into whatever comes up because it's there for a reason. It's there to serve your higher purpose. It's there to give you information. I know I'm repeating a lot, but I want to make sure the message is received. And this is work that's difficult. And especially if you've had 30, 40, 50 years of conditioning of not feeling your emotions, we need to learn how to do so in a safe way. And that is my mission. So if you're with me, if you want to join me, if you want some tools and guidance on how to start feeling your emotions in a safe way, reach out to me. I'm going to drop a link to one of the Heart Rise meditations I had done. I think it was part of season 1 or 2. I'm going to link that because that's going to be a good introduction into what it could be and feel like to really start embracing your emotions and to lean into it. But I'm going to continue talking about this because it's such an important topic. And I want kids to be equipped. I want teenagers to know how to move through their emotions. And I've seen it with my teens that the ones who are more emotionally aware, they're able to tap into that resilience and build it at a young age so that they could be equipped when they get out of school and go on to real life. They already have the tools to be able to get through anything that life throws at them. So the younger we can teach kids emotional resilience and leaning into your emotions, the better it is because we'll be able to set them up for life. And this is something I wish I knew because I spent a good 35 years being afraid of emotion and suppressing emotion. So imagine all I could have accomplished. Imagine how free I would have felt to just be me earlier. And I mean, better late than never, right? But imagine just being able to tap into that real, authentic version of you that's not afraid to share her opinion, that's not afraid to show up in all her feels, that's not afraid to cry in front of people and doesn't apologize for it and just knows it's part of the human experience. And if the tears are coming out, they're there for a reason. They just need to be released. Like, oof, how reassuring and how freeing and how just in the moment and present I could have been so long ago. So I want that for you too. And again, if you're ready and if you want to dive deeper and you want guidance on how, I'm here for you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I've clearly calmed down since the beginning of the episode. I was all riled up for good reason. But I want to hear what you have to say. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I love a good debate. I'm open to it as long as it's respectful. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your experience. Have you grown up like me where you were taught to suppress your emotions and hide your emotions? Are you still struggling with how to release your emotions in a safe way? Do you even know what that means? have you even thought about it? I'd love to hear your feedback. So please comment. Please share this episode with someone that you feel needs to hear this message. And I'm hoping you're going to share it with many people you love because I want this message to get out there. Parents, especially with your kids, like how are you approaching the topic of emotions? How are you embracing their emotions? How are you encouraging your kids to share their emotions in a healthy way? That is key. As an adult yourself, what are you doing to help yourself to channel those emotions, to put them, to get them out in the healthiest way possible so that they don't get stuck and they don't get suppressed? All this and so much more. Stay tuned because I'm definitely going to be talking more about this. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you in advance for your feedback and for sharing. And yeah, let's all build that emotional resilience together.